Welcome back to the FM Realty Report. I'm Roman,
I'm Don.
and today we have a little bit change of topics here. And first thing I would like to mention is our previous episode was all about development,
Right.
and we just came across some interesting information we thought would give you an update. This is a development we mentioned before, and this is about the Lafayette development update, which used to be a Lafayette Golf Club.
Used to be a golf club, right?
And
Used to be a good one.
fun fact, I got married there.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I did once too.
Oh, really? So now it is becoming a neighborhood development.
Yeah.
And I learned that in August this year, the Syracuse Planning Commission approved the master site plan, and it's going to be about 263 homes. Price ranges between $350,000 to $1 million. That's a
Yeah, it's a big
That's a
project.
big
and
range.
Part of it's in the city, part of it's in the town of Onondaga. It's going to be a phased project. We know that.
And, first step is going to be the site development, obviously. But as far as amenities, they are thinking about 9 holes,
Yeah. Yep.
golf course, some ponds,
Yep.
green
Green
space,
park areas.
yep,
Yeah.
trails and stuff like that. And the next thing I'd like to mention, which is something interesting about the local economy here, is Grow New York. Have you heard of it, Don?
Just a bit. You mentioned it.
Yeah. And so it's an annual food and agricultural startup companies in New York State. It's kind of a competition, and there have been 20 companies selected to go through and see who's going to be the winner, and there'll be other money allocated to other companies. But the total is $3 million in total prizes.
And this is for agricultural projects,
Yeah, startup companies.
startup
Yep.
companies.
Which we need this.
Oh, absolutely. There's an interesting fact that I always remind people of. We talk about Central New York and specifically Onondaga County, where we're located. People don't understand the economic impact that agriculture is in Onondaga County. It's one of the largest industries in Onondaga County. It's huge.
Yeah. When I met my wife, she grew up here, and she would often tell me, "See this shopping center here, see this development. These all used to be farmlands,
Right.
and now we're losing agricultural land to development. So we need companies that understand this and know the technology."
Oh, absolutely. And technology
can-
is part of the answer. There's
Yeah.
a lot of things going on. And certain towns, town of Pompey, for instance, they have in their long-range plan, essentially the top third of the town of Pompey is for residential development. The bottom two-thirds, that's agriculture. And that's in the town plan, and that's going to stay. And there's other towns in the county doing the same thing because, yeah, development's important, as we all said, and it's needed, especially with what's going on, the micron development. But agriculture is absolutely essential to the financial health and the food source supply for our region.
Yeah, I think these new startup companies will help us balance our needs. Infrastructure,
Absolutely.
development,
Absolutely.
and agriculture.
Agriculture, companies like Wegmans and Tops, they buy local, especially during the season where they can get fresh. And it's just a huge, huge economic engine here in the Onondaga County.
Absolutely. So the $1 million prize will be for the first place, and then the rest of the $2 million will be allocated to different companies as well. And the winner will be announced in Canandaigua in November.
Oh, that sounds
So,
great.
once we have that update, we can give that company
Yeah.
a shout out. It'll
Absolutely.
be interesting to find out more about it.
Interesting.
And why it matters, obviously, again, it boosts local innovation and economic development in the agricultural food sector. And the last thing I would like to talk about, this is going to be a little bit of a longer section, is a few episodes back you asked me, we talked about investments and investment properties, and you asked me to maybe come up with something to either it's somebody new who wants to venture into
New investors.
real estate investment, or somebody has some properties and maybe just needs extra information. no matter how long I've been doing something, I've always learned something new,
Absolutely.
right?
And that's part of what we do here at FM
Yeah.
Realty Group
And
too.
sometimes
So,
you could be an investor for 20 years and I might say something that would,
yep.
surprise somebody that they
Yep.
didn't know. And but I'd like to break it into it's too much information to put in one episode.
Oh, absolutely.
And we'll just break this down and we'll put them in, a few episodes.
Okay.
But the first one would be to start. Where do
What
you
do you
start?
do to get started? I want to be an investor.
Yeah. So I always start with educate yourself.
Yep.
Educate in what it's like to be an owner of real estate property.
Yep.
What kind of challenges come with it. Look at all the bad and ugly and good at the same time.
You betcha.
Because if you only concentrate on what the success stories tell you, you'll be quickly discouraged
Yep.
when you face challenges.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I always start out my conversation with new investors. This is a business. This is not a shortcut to getting rich. Just like any other business, you're going to get out of it what you put into it, and you have to work it.
Absolutely. And it's an investment.
Yep.
There's all kinds of investments. There are stocks, there's bonds, there's, partnering up with somebody and somebody else runs a business. You just have financial kind of
Absolutely.
support there. But nice about owning your own real estate, it's a tangible investment. You
Yep.
can actually go see it,
Yep.
touch it, see how things are going. It is also good leverage. Banks primarily are taking the risk here.
Yep.
It puts a little bit out of your pocket, whether it's going to be 3% or 20% down, depending on how you're purchasing this two-family house. And I'm not a financial advisor or legal advisor, so I always
We
recommend.
always recommend attorneys, always recommend
Absolutely.
accountants. Absolutely.
Another thing I would recommend is once you've gone through your educational part of it, kind of understanding the broader view of what it's like, well, now you need to set a plan, who you're going to work with. Number one, get yourself a reliable realtor. You're listening to
Who
two.
does this?
You are listening to two right now.
Absolutely.
Contact FM Realty Group. Don and myself can absolutely help you in that field when it comes to investment properties. And try to, if you still don't feel confident with all this information you got, and I feel this way often, I do all my research and I still need somebody there.
Yeah.
So consultants are great source. They not only can help you consult with information you need to get started, but they've been doing it for so long, they have other connections and resources that they can kind of get you in touch with. And I've consulted anybody from small startup, single family home to a commercial multi-business development. And there are things that even though they have many businesses that they've built with real estate or other things, they've always appreciated and valued the information I provided.
Yeah.
And there are so many consultants out there that can help you and kind of hold your hand. And it's that extra security. We always get insurance just in case, right?
Yep.
Have a consultant. It
Have
will
an
not hurt.
expert. Have somebody who knows what they're talking about. I know one of the things, and I'd like, you and I have talked about these kinds of things many times, but since we're talking about it now, when I start out with a new investor, one of the things the conversation needs to get to at some point is, what are your goals as an investor? One example might be, are you looking for an investment that your main desire for a return out of this investment is your return on the investment, is your ROI? What am I going to make on a monthly basis? Because I'm looking to get income. Whereas other investors, they may not be as concerned about the income as long as it's breaking even and making money. They're concerned about the property, having that asset, having something in 20 years they can sell to put their kid through college. So what's your goal? Why are you doing this? And what are you trying to get out of it? Some people, most investors that I know, you want to return on your investment and you want to have an appreciating investment. You want both. But there can be emphasis on one to the detriment of the other, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. depending on what your goal is.
Yeah, that's always a conversation, and everyone is in a different position.
Yep.
Some people just have the money. They want to put that money into, like you've said earlier, equity. And that equity on real estate is also your buying power in the future. And the buying power is something I wanted to touch on next. When you did the research, you've hired consultants, you getting ready to buy something, and you have a realtor that's going to help you find properties. Find out what is your buying power.
Absolutely.
Get pre-approved. It doesn't take
Absolutely.
long. It doesn't cost you anything.
And we can help, as experts and consultants, we can help you steer you to the individual institutions that we've worked with. Some are better than others.
And we always recommend for you to call them and interview them and find out who's going to be best for you. That's going to be your kind of next step before you start looking at properties. Now, then, when you do your research, you hear ROI a lot, what kind of returns.
ROI means return on investment.
Return on investment. And there's also a cap, which is, what is your cash return. This is important because when you're deciding what kind of investor you're going to be in real estate, whether you need the cash flow, whether it is something that you're building equity for a larger investment in the future, like you said, putting your kids through college, or building wealth for generations to pass on.
Right. Right.
And all these thoughts go across our minds depending on our situation. Are you a single young adult? Are you a young couple that just got married and have no kids? Are you somebody with kids? And what are your future situations are? And then when you start calculating these ROIs and you're working with your realtor, you look at these numbers, these properties, you're going to come across some properties that have amazing ROI. But you've researched all these things and how all this stuff works from beginning to rent it out and smoothly operational property. You don't see a lot of information online where, well, you found the property, amazing ROI, but it has 2 tenants. How do I approach that?
Yeah, that's a big thing. In New York State, it's very good that you mentioned that. In New York State, we have something called good cause eviction, and it is the law in New York State. Each municipality, however, throughout the state, has to decide to opt into it. For instance, Syracuse and towns in Onondaga County right now have not opted into it. But with good cause eviction, which is spreading across the state, it means that there's specific reasons that you're going to be allowed to evict your tenant. Maybe they're not paying the rent, maybe they're involved in criminal activity. There's 8 or 9 different legitimate reasons you can be evicted. However, and investors have to understand this, if this comes into place, which I personally believe it will at some point, there's an aspect of good cause eviction that says, if I'm a good tenant and I continue to pay my rent and I'm not violating any of these 8 or 9 reasons why I could get evicted, and I continue to want to pay the rental increases, and they're now capped, I can stay as long as I want. I, the tenant, govern what you can do as an investor with your property. It's called a perennial lease. And that's something that some people have real problems with. But an investor better know. Right now, that's not the case, as I said, here locally in Onondaga County. So let's say that you have a property that you want to buy. It's got a great return on investment, but you want to have new tenants. Today, you can remove those tenants subject to whatever lease. If they don't have a lease in New York State, they still do have a lease. It's called a month-to-month lease. Mm-hmm. And you have to give notification to that tenant 1 day plus 30 on a month-to-month lease. If they've been there longer, say a year or 2, you may have to give a 14-day notice. You might have to give a 30-day notice. It really depends. Mm-hmm. And it brings up a good point. When we're talking about new investors, one thing that we both do, I know, that investor has to be educated as to what tenants' rights are, mm-hmm. what a landlord's rights are, what New York State laws are The 2019 Tenant Protection Act is the strictest tenant protection act in New York State. You have to know that beforehand.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. When you find a property with tenants, my approach, if I'm your consultant, my approach to you is educate yourself with all the your legal rights and tenant legal rights in this situation. Understand it. Don't just find some information through AI or Google. Read through, understand it, consult, talk to an attorney.
And we'll give you resources.
Absolutely. The next thing is I like to not always jump into conclusion of I'm evicting these tenants.
Right. Good point.
What I'd like to do is I like to ask current landlord to provide information, financial information of the tenants.
Right.
Have they been paying on time?
Mm-hmm.
How long they've been there?
Right.
How many times they've been late? And with tenants' current owner's permission, maybe set up interviews with the tenants.
Right.
Introduce yourself. Get a feel what kind of tenant they are. Are they gonna respect you? They're gonna be they're willing to take time and talk to you.
Respect the property.
Respect the property. Get to know them.
That's a good point.
Introduce yourself.
That's a good point, and I'm glad that you're talking about that approach because it also falls in line with the reality in our marketplace where there is real difficulty for tenants finding properties.
Mm-hmm.
Rents have gone up. That's the marketplace, and you and I don't believe they're going to be going down. Yet at the same time, I think it's important for us as realtors to alert investors as to the reality of the marketplace. And I personally think we have, and I'll put it this way, I think we have an ethical and professional responsibility to also take into consideration the concerns of the tenants. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to do that. It's, as you said, you can maybe work with the existing tenants and get yourself over time mm-hmm. to a point that's going to be good for the tenant and good for the landlord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to do your due diligence. Understand it, learn this, talk to them if possible. And if you choose to manage your own properties, you need to develop a skill of de-escalation, yep. Proper communication, and educating yourself in legal rights
Absolutely.
And real estate laws.
Absolutely. That brings up a great point in terms of we're talking about new investors maybe. One of the biggest hurdles that I've come across in my career with new investors, okay, I've got the money for a down payment. I've got the money for my closing costs. And I say, well, how much money do you have put aside for repairs? Because they're going to start the day you buy the property. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll do that from the rents. That's not appropriate, and that's not going to put you in trouble. And there's a lot of people that get into the business, become landlords. They haven't consulted with a professional like you or me, and all of a sudden they find themselves in 6 or 8 months. They've got a furnace that blew. They've got a sewer that backed up. They don't have the funds to get those things repaired. Now they're in problem with code enforcement. They're in problem with the tenants. They're in problem themselves. And all of a sudden this has become a very negative experience. Absolutely. And we want to avoid that.
Now that is the following step. You've done your research, educated yourself, hired a consultant, spoke to an attorney, mm-hmm. Hired a real estate agent, found some properties. The next step is make a decision. You're going to manage your own properties or you're going to hire a property management company.
Right.
If you're going to manage yourself, understand those steps that I mentioned earlier, introduce yourself to the tenants, if possible, talk to them, get the payment records, and then find a reliable contractor mm-hmm. or a handyman,
yep.
And decide whether you're going to do any of the work yourself.
Right.
Make sure anything you do yourself, you know what you're doing. Just like you said, you might do things, whether you looked it up on YouTube or talk to your uncle or whatever, and then you do that repair, code enforcer comes in, does the inspection, and fails you.
Right.
It's going to cost you greatly. It's going to cost a lot more money to undo things and do it right. than if you contact a contractor or a handyman who understand this better and can do it the right way from
Right.
the
And
start.
all of this is, and this is what I counsel, I know this is what you counsel, especially with brand new people, but even existing people. I want to see your business plan.
Mm-hmm.
And your business plan is, again, as we talked earlier, what is your goal in this investment? But I also want to see a budget.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see reserves. I want to see financial reserves. I want to see what time, if you're self-managing, as you said, what time you have yourself to dedicate yourself to this.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said, and it's more true than people want to believe, toilets back up and furnaces fail on Christmas morning. It's just the way it goes. And you have to be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know, for instance, in the wintertime in our community, if your furnace fails, you have 24 hours. 24 hours to get supplemental heat in there or get it repaired. Mm-hmm. And on Christmas morning, guess what? You're not getting a repair company. It's not going to happen. Or if you have it, it's an emergency repair. It'll cost you 3 times what it normally would cost you.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I've always advised investors, for instance, in 2-family homes, do you have a backup heating? Do you have portable heaters that you can plug into the wall and operate until you can get it repaired? I mean, that's just one little example.
Yeah.
Do you have a backup sink or a backup, if you're doing your own repairs? Do you already have in your possession faucets, washers, whatever it takes?
Mm-hmm.
This is what it means to be understanding this is a business. You got to be prepared.
And this is something I'm going to go in more detail in our next episode or some future episodes. But absolutely, I do always recommend owners to have a maintenance closet in every property.
Yep.
Little things to keep in there for emergency repairs and to avoid these disasters like Don mentioned on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, it happens. Just always
or Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
like these holidays
the
when
coldest day of the year.
Yeah. Stay on top of preventative maintenance.
Absolutely.
It is the key for smooth operation of your property. It also shows to tenants what kind of a landlord you are.
Yep.
And how much you care about the property. The less you show your care for the property, the less respect to the property tenants will show themselves.
Absolutely. And, I've seen investors do different things. I know one investor, of course, we're not going to mention names, but this individual now, I don't know how many properties we sold him, but he's probably got 7 or 8 2-family houses. And on every Thanksgiving, and he takes care of his properties are beautiful, just beautiful. He's got tenants that respect the property, but he does little things. And he does them throughout the course of the year. But one thing that sticks in my mind, every Thanksgiving, he gives them a turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't stress that kind of aspect of that two-way communication. You are the landlord. You want, as you said, you want people to respect your property. Well, if you don't. The other thing that I always preach is, keep your property not just up to code, keep your property in as good a condition as you possibly can, not only for your tenants, not only for the respect that your tenants have for you as a landlord and vice versa, but someday you're going to want to sell that property.
Mm-hmm.
And the better condition it's in, the more money you're going to get. And I always get a little bit nervous when somebody comes and when they want to sell their investment and they've just done the minimum for 10 years or 15 years. Mm-hmm. And now the major repairs are all piling up. And boy, that affects value.
Yeah, not only it's good for resale, but when the market changes, you are in an excellent position to raise your rent and justify it.
Right.
Because it's always difficult when you do bare minimum, and then you see all these properties nearby get this high rent. Now you want the same thing because you have the same number of bedrooms and square footage, but your property does not look par.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely
so
correct.
I hope this information was useful to all of you who are looking to start up as landlords. Don, do you have anything to add before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody or tell everybody that on September 20th of this year, it'll be the return of the annual Onondaga County Agricultural Farm Fest. And it's run by the Onondaga County Agricultural Council. And it's a wonderful family event. I went there last year with my kids and grandkids, and I believe there's 6 or 7 farms throughout the county where you can go. Some specialize in maple syrup, some specialize in cattle, some specialize in horses, and they all have events. They have food, they have entertainment. It's a great time, a great family event. And this year it's September 20th, and just go online and put in Farm Fest. It's called the Harvey Skeel Farm Fest now, in honor of Harvey Skeel. And I just can't tell you how much of a fun event it is. So just a shameless plug for something going on in Onondaga County, September 20th. Check it out. I'm sure you'll love it.
I'm going to check that out. Maybe I'll go there with my family.
Good.
Thank you, Don. Thank you to all the listeners and followers. We always work hard to provide weekly information for you guys, whether it's educational, whether it's something that's good for your business, or you're looking for a real estate property. And for that, you can always contact FM Realty Group, Don, or myself, and we'll be happy to work with you and help you, with your real estate needs. Till next time, we thank you again,
Okay, thank you, Roman.
and talk to you later. Bye-bye.